What is going on YouTube? It is NFL Rank here with the Week 16 Power Rankings.
Yes,
My
sir.
name is Omari. I'm here with my friend Bo.
Yep.
And to
Hey,
start off,
what's up? What's up,
what's
Amari?
up? What's up, man? How
Yeah.
excited are you to start this channel?
I've been looking forward to this. This is
Yeah,
my
it's a long time coming.
yeah.
Okay, so let's start. Number 32. What's the worst team?
The worst team. I don't know. There's some pretty bad teams, but there's a lot of good teams, and I think that's important to note because we have a very competitive league. And
Yeah.
uh, despite this fact, there's still a few teams that are resoundingly awful. And the team I'd say is most awful is Jacksonville because, in my opinion, they don't really have a quarterback. I think it'd be generous to call Gardner Minshew or whoever they're studying a quarterback because can't throw it past 20 yards.
Minshew Mania is over.
Yeah, yeah, no, he doesn't have it. And the running back, they have a pretty solid running back, James Robinson. He's good, but that's about it. The receivers are really bad. DJ Chark had a good rookie season, hasn't repeated, so not loving their offense. Their defense, it's kind of meh. They have Calais Campbell, but not a whole lot else. So yeah, I'd say they're the worst team. Would you agree, Amari?
Um, I definitely would. It's close between them and the Bengals, in my opinion. Well,
Yeah,
actually, no. The Bengals won this week. No. It's
Bengals
definitely
did
the
win.
Jaguars.
The Jets won. All
Yeah.
these bad teams are winning. Jaguars, they lost again. What can you do?
Yeah.
So
Hey, at
I don't
least
know.
they're in line for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I just if they get Trevor Lawrence, they'll be a good team. But at the moment, yeah, they're the laughing stock of the league. They lost by 26 points last week, so it's
Destroyed by the Ravens.
not pretty. Yeah, they got throttled. Yeah.
Respectable loss, but still.
And the
Yeah.
Ravens are actually getting hot at the right time, but we'll talk about them later. So yeah, I think we could say they're the worst team in the NFL right now.
32. Okay.
Next, what do you think?
31. Hmm. I'd have to
So
put the Bengals at 31.
Bengals, wow, okay, behind the
Their,
Jets.
yeah, their quarterback situation is kind of tough,
Yeah.
the Joe Burrow injury.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
that
they
like, he was.
they have a lot of injuries actually. Joe Mixon, he's on one of my fantasy teams. He's just been out, and even when he was healthy, he wasn't quite living up to his billing. And he was supposed to be a top 10 running back, but haven't seen that kind of production from him, at least not since last year. So yeah, I think it's safe to say they're a bottom tier team, and I think that a top pick in the draft will serve them well. They can really upgrade their defense or get a good receiver for Burrow. I think it'll be good.
Let's see. Let me look at some of their stats here. So the Bengals,
What are they? 3-10-1.
yeah, they're 3-10-1.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they beat the Steelers, so I mean, this may be controversial to be putting them 31st in the league, but you just look at their team; it's devoid of talent. They got they got some wide receivers. They got T. Higgins, who's really a great receiver. He's got a super bright future. And they have Tyler Boyd, who's all right. But then there's AJ Green, he's banged up past his prime. They got John Ross, who, fastest guy of all time in the NFL, but hasn't really done anything of note. So, yeah, they got some work to do on the offensive front. Their defense isn't anything too great either.
Yeah, I wonder what's their defense ranked, like their passing defense. Like what's the rank?
Yeah,
Probably near the bottom.
gonna check. Yeah, they allowed 355 points. That's actually better than the Browns, if you can believe it. So, yeah, no, it's mainly their offense that's holding them back, is what it seems like. Yeah, they got the fewest points aside from the Jets uh, in the AFC.
I got it. They're ranked 13th overall in
That's,
defense and
yeah, that's
14th
actually,
against the pass.
that's pretty good actually.
Yeah. So it's definitely the offense.
Yeah, no, the offense is lacking, and they have talent. I think they would have put together something nice this year if they could stay healthy. Um, I guess for now we're ranking them 31st. So who comes after that?
So it's pretty close between the bottom three. The Jets got to be next, obviously.
Jets, of course, yeah. I mean, we're being pretty generous ranking them 30th, considering they've been an absolute joke this entire year.
Well, they did beat one of the top teams in the NFC. So
yeah, and that to me that's a miracle because you look at their team. I mean, what do you have? You got Sam Darnold, who I know people are gonna say he's got potential, he's got promise, but let's be real here. It's worn out over the years. And then what? The running backs, they have Ty Johnson, who it seems like they're almost purposefully not playing him, even though he's clearly better than Frank Gore. They're just trying to tank as much as possible, and it's sad that even despite this effort, they still managed to win a game. They have really no good receivers aside from Jamison Crowder. Denzel Mims, I'm not buying into the hype. So I don't see the talent. They got Noel Hewitt and they have Quinnen Williams. They got some talent on defense. The defense isn't that bad actually, but the offense is just really it's atrocious. It kind of makes me want to vomit if I'm being honest. I don't feel so well. Let me pause this podcast.
Do you think Sam Darnold could be a top quarterback?
I'm going to go so far as to say
a terrible situation.
I don't think he can be a bottom quarterback on any team. I think he's just. I understand the situation he's been put in is not ideal, but honestly, this sort of thing has happened before. You look at Josh Rosen, also was in an ideal situation, but this ruins quarterbacks. People don't come back from this. I mean, I beg you to come up with an example of a quarterback who started off with a bad team, struggled, and then managed to fix his career. I can't think of anyone. It just seems like if you can't turn your franchise around like Joe Burrow has done or like any of the other star quarterbacks have done, then you're just not a good quarterback. And being on a bad team isn't really an excuse.
Yeah, I mean
look at the
definitely get rid of Adam Gase. So
yeah, Adam Gase for sure. The coach is terrible. Everyone agrees on that. But look at the Browns, for example. Baker Mayfield was put in an absolute laughingstock of a franchise. They hadn't won for over a decade. And then Baker Mayfield comes, he turns this thing around. They're 9-4 or something. Or they're 10-4 even. And that just goes to show that a really good quarterback can turn a franchise around. And
that's how you do it.
Arnold hasn't been capable of that.
Be like Baker Mayfield, have more commercials than touchdowns. That's how you gotta do it.
Yeah, you can say that, but he's got like 20 plus touchdowns. I think he has 25 touchdowns and 8 receptions. So overall, he's been an above average quarterback when no one really expected him to be one.
Yeah, so, I know he's good. I was just joking.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think honestly though, I am kind of offended because he is on my fantasy team. He's my backup for Aaron Rodgers, and I actually think he's going to be more valuable. So I'm pretty defensive of my players. Anyhow, the 29th team, who do you have?
This is where it gets tough.
Let's look at the teams.
So, thinking,
yeah,
got to be someone from the NFC least, right?
That's what I was thinking. We're thinking on the same wavelength here. I was thinking that exactly.
Who's the worst?
I mean,
did the Eagles lose this week or did they win?
Eagles did lose, although Jalen Hurts was really good. But that's a valid team.
No,
maybe
between the Giants.
Did you see?
The Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons just. Oh my God.
Falcons did what the Falcons always do.
Yeah, they choked. And against Tom Brady, no less. Yeah. So there really is no excuse after getting off to that big lead. And it looks like they could actually be a playoff team if they didn't blow all these leads. I mean, it's sad that they're 4-10 with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. That combination should get you to the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
But they keep blowing leads. It's bad coaching.
And they have Todd Gurley too.
They have Todd Gurley, who, by the way, he's no longer their starting running back. I don't know if you heard about that. They're naming Ito Smith their starting running back over Todd Gurley. That's just how far this guy is falling. He basically got run out of Los Angeles by the Rams, signs with the Falcons on a 1-year prove-it deal, and he wasn't even able to succeed in that regard. He couldn't even stay the starter the whole season. So he's done now. He's a backup running back. He's 26 years old. He's going to be on the streets now. I mean, not literally, but figuratively speaking. He's not going to find a team after this year, or at least not in a starting running back capacity. So
and after that Super Bowl, and they didn't play him, like
it was
just a decline from there.
Yeah, I feel like that season actually that he had an amazing season, but near the end of that season, that's where it started to get rough for him. He couldn't handle a real workload. His yards per carry was just going down the drain as pretty much as fast as my dating hopes. And I just don't think he's going to recover from this. It's sad, but his time's done at 26.
If the Falcons were able to close out all the games they choked, they might be ahead of the Buccaneers in their division right now.
Yeah, I think they might be. They very well might be. I mean, you look at some of these games that they've lost against the Bucs, against the Chargers, against the Saints. These are all close games. They just can't close them out. Lions, they lost by 1. It's tough, but it's the price you pay when you can't close out games. Okay, so 28th ranked team. Who do you have?
28. Panthers.
Yeah, I mean that's another 4-10 team. I gotta say they haven't had McCaffrey all year, but what do you think about them?
Oh, McCaffrey is very useful. That would help him a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment for sure. He was the number 1 ranked fantasy running back in the league, arguably the number 1 ranked running back in the league, fantasy or otherwise. So yeah, it's definitely disappointing. He's been hurt most of the season, but at the same time, they signed Teddy Bridgewater. They had a capable defense. They were expected to win some games this year, and they just haven't done that. So yeah, I don't know where they go from here. They're gonna probably have a top 5 pick. I mean, who do you draft in this situation? Their offense is pretty much good. They got DJ Moore at wide receiver. He's a beast. They got some talent on offense. I don't know who you draft if you're the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, if only Teddy Bridgewater could work up some of that same magic he did with the Saints while Drew Brees was injured.
Yeah.
So last year.
Actually, yeah, no, I know. He didn't lose a game with the Saints last year, but he actually started off well. And then things sort of just fell off the cliff. And you got to wonder if he's just not that guy who he was during those 4 games, because he had his stint with the Vikings. Didn't go quite well. People thought he turned things around, finally lived up to the promise that he had when he was the 32nd overall pick by the Vikings a few years ago. And I'm not sure he'll get another opportunity. So it's going to be tough.
Pretty average performance against the Packers this week too. No passing touchdowns, but he did have a rushing touchdown.
You're definitely right. He had an average performance, and that's just not going to cut it against top teams like the Packers. Okay. Yeah. So who do you have next? 27th.
Let's see. Okay, we definitely have to put an NFC East team in now. But let me see.
East, okay.
Let's see.
You have another team in mind that's not NFC East.
Let me ask you. What do you think?
I think the Texans should be put next, and I think they're one of those teams that, like the Falcons, like the Panthers, had a lot of potential, like the Bengals even, had a lot of potential, but they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't win the close games. They got off to a really slow start. They couldn't recover. And they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Deshaun Watson, unlike these other teams we've listed. And it definitely seems like they should have been in the running for this division, but here they are sitting at 4-10, while the Colts and the Titans are 10-4. So it explains a lot. Their wide receivers, they have Will Fuller. And really, I just want to make something clear about their franchise. Bill O'Brien really did screw them for the next few years, because you look at some of the trades they've made. They traded DeAndre Hopkins for nothing, for what was the 2nd round pick and change. And
sack potatoes.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know who they did trade for? Their left tackle, Laramie Tunsil. They traded 2 first-round picks for him. They traded a 2nd for Hopkins. They traded 2 firsts for a left tackle who grades out as above average, and nothing really more. And you know what they signed that left tackle to? They signed him to 3 years, $66 million. So in my opinion, the success or the lack of success of this franchise, it lies on Bill O'Brien and his inadequacy as a head coach and general manager, because some of the moves he made, they're inexplicable. You can't justify them. And I think they deserve to be where they are right now. They deserve to be 4-10. I just feel bad for Deshaun Watson because he's a great quarterback. He deserves a lot better than that.
Which is why I don't want to rank them that low, because under normal circumstances, like Deshaun Watson, he's like one of the top QBs in the league.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking him.
Terrible situation.
I think he's a top 5 quarterback or top 10. But yeah, they dug themselves in a hole, and they're not going to get out of it for a few years because the situation. They would have had a top 5 pick. They traded it to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are going to have that pick while making the playoffs. So it's tough, but they're going to be stuck with David Johnson and Brandon Cooks leading their offense, while they have a so-so defense as J.J. Watt gets older. It's going to be tough.
We shall see if they could possibly get any good receivers in the later rounds of this draft.
That should be their first priority since their offensive line looks good after making that ridiculous trade for Tunsil. Not good, but at least serviceable. But yeah, I agree they should draft a wide receiver. So next, 26, who do you got? I'm definitely looking at the NFC East here with you.
Okay. So I'd have to go with. They're all pretty close except
like
the football team first out of all of them, obviously.
Yeah, it can't be Washington.
Okay, for this week specifically, probably the Giants because they had the worst loss.
Funny thing, I would agree with you. I would also select the Giants.
Yeah. Got destroyed by the Browns.
Yep. 20-6. What do you think about them?
Daniel Jones can be a really good quarterback.
Yep.
Just
Mind you, he didn't start this week. It was Colt McCoy, but overall, I agree. He's got his ups and downs. He's got a lot of promise. He's got some really great legs, and he's got a good arm. I saw him throw this one touchdown pass behind, I think it was a cover 4 defense, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a pass that I don't think many quarterbacks can make. So this is another quarterback I think they should give players to, because you look at their offense, it's a joke what they have on offense right now. They have Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, or Evan Engram. Like, those guys they're guys. They're all average to below average players. And then the running back, they got obviously the crown jewel, Saquon Barkley. He's hurt. We don't know if he can stay healthy. This is 2 out of 3 years that he hasn't stayed healthy. So who knows if he's going to be able to stay healthy. If he is, they got themselves the best running back in the league. But if he's not, they're looking at a couple more years of Alfred Morris, Wayne Gallman, and Dion Lewis leading their running backs. So it's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty future if they can't get him back on the field.
Injuries have been crazy this year. So shame.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Daniel Jones, he's a young guy. With time, I feel like he could be like maybe a Josh Allen type of quarterback.
Yeah, you definitely.
He has legs. He can throw.
Yeah. I think they're gonna have to draft someone on offense. Their defense actually isn't that bad. They've allowed only 311 points, which is pretty good comparing them to some of the other teams. But yeah, it's that offense.
All right. So what would next be? 25, right?
Yeah, I actually got.
25.
I have
What do you think?
I have my eye on the Broncos actually, and I'm going to tell you why. I think the Broncos have themselves not a terrible offense, not a terrible defense, but they've just underperformed from all fronts. And you look at their last loss to the Bills, that's why I'm putting them here. They lost by close to 30 points. Drew Lock, he's not cutting it. I don't think he's got it in him. I don't think he's got that dog in him to be the starting quarterback long term. I think they're going to need to look at replacing him. The running back, Melvin Gordon, average at best. I've had him in one of my fantasy leagues. He's really made me want to cry a few nights. But they have him. They have Jerry Jeudy, the guy they drafted. He hasn't been living up to the hype. He's got 650 yards. I get that. But you look at some of the guys drafted behind him, Justin Jefferson, who's been unbelievable. And you just wonder, I mean, did they make the right choice selecting Judy? And time will tell. He could still be a star, but it doesn't look like he will be, at least up to this point. Um, and yeah, their defense, they have some talent. They have Kareem Jackson. They have a couple other guys. Bradley Chubb's
Justin
really good.
Simmons.
Who?
Justin Simmons.
Yeah, no, he's great as well. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the Broncos. I think they got to shore up a few pieces, but I don't think they're that far from being a playoff contending team. They have the talent. They just need to really get the
Yeah, I mean they're still in the hunt. What's the record like?
they're
7-7, right?
they're 5-9 actually, so I
Oh,
don't
5 and
think
9.
they're in the height. I don't think they're in the hunt right now, but I do think next year they're gonna have a solid shot. And really, if you look at their games this year, a couple of games could have gone either way, and yeah, they could have easily been in the hunt at this point.
Yeah, damn shame. Well, this week specifically against the Bills, Melvin Gordon was their best player. He had 2 TDs,
Yeah,
averaged 5.5 yards.
yeah, no,
Yep,
he was good this week for sure. Yeah,
yep. That's
yeah.
about it though. Like they couldn't do it like other than Melvin Gordon and one
Well,
touchdown from Drew Lock.
I think it starts with the quarterback. I think that's their problem. I think they need another quarterback, and I think they should have tanked a bit harder this year because they really are Trevor Lawrence away from being like one of the best teams in the league. So I think that's what they should have done, but they'll still get themselves a decent enough quarterback where they're at. I don't know who there is aside from Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, but there's going to be a couple guys who they can give a shot at. I mean, Jalen Hurts was just a second round pick, so they can try something out there.
Yeah. You need Peyton Manning to come back out of retirement or something.
Yeah, unless he comes back. I saw that one video of him throwing a football in a basketball stadium, and it looked pretty good. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be coming back anytime soon. But he would be a beast for them if he could do what he did that one year, win them the Super Bowl. Actually, that wasn't his best year, but you get the point. Yeah, what's our next team? 24th.
24.
Yeah.
Let's go with maybe the Chargers actually.
Chargers. Okay. Interesting.
What do they do this week?
Yeah.
It's between the Chargers and the Cowboys won, right? This week the Cowboys won.
I believe they won.
They beat the football team. I know. Who they beat?
They beat the Niners 41-33.
The Niners. Yeah, so Chargers for sure.
I put the Chargers, yeah. Also got my eye on the Lions. They're not doing too hot. But yeah, you know who I compare the Chargers to?
What do you compare them to?
I compare them to the Falcons because those are two really talented teams that just can't win the close games. And I think, under different circumstances, this Chargers team is a team that could have contended. But I mean, you look at some of their games that they've choked. It's been hard to watch. It's been hard to watch them struggle when they could so easily be in the hunt. They won this week and they won last week actually, so that kind of makes me sound foolish. But I mean, they lost to the Raiders by 5 points a couple weeks back. They lost to the Broncos by 1 point the week before that.
And got destroyed by the Patriots.
Yeah, 45-0. Obviously, I glossed over that. But that aside, I don't know what happened in that game. Didn't watch it, but they have Justin Herbert. He looks like he's a star in the making. He's just an amazing quarterback. They have Austin Eckler, who's a beast. He's great. They have Keenan Allen, one of the best receivers in the league. Hunter Henry, a great tight end. They're flush with talent, man. They got so much talent. They got Casey Hayward, who's a great cornerback. They got Kaiser White. They have Nick Vigil, who I actually picked up in my league. He definitely produced. They got Joey Bosa, who's an amazing defenseman. They have so much talent, bro. They should be a playoff team, but they have a rookie quarterback who can't finish games. I think that's what's holding them back.
Yeah, man. They had that one good year. What was it? A couple years ago.
With
going
Rivers.
12-4. Yeah, with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. They've been that team that always had a chance to make it far. They could just never win the big games, and that's continuing this season. I just hope Herbert will be able to change that trend because he definitely looks more dynamic than Rivers ever was. So I think he's got it in him to do it in the future, maybe even next year. Next year, they're a team to look out for sure. They have all the talent in the world. They just have to put it together.
Herbert's probably the best of the rookie quarterbacks this year, I'd say.
Yeah.
He's up there.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I mean, who else is there? There's a couple other guys. Joe Burrow looks amazing as well, but Herbert's been
Obviously,
better.
the injury.
Yeah, who's the other guy?
Tua.
Tua, yeah, he also looks great actually. So it's a really strong class this year.
Yeah, it's between him and Tua.
Yeah, no, it's 3-star quarterbacks who got drafted this year. So some great talent, but Herbert's had the best year. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year too. So yeah, they got a really bright future ahead in Los Angeles.
You know what?
What?
You're right. We should probably switch the Chargers with the Lions. Because at least the Chargers, they're coming off 2 back-to-back wins. The Lions have back-to-back losses.
Yeah, Lions 24th. Yeah, Lions for me, they're a lot more bleak. They don't have that same kind of future upside that the Chargers have. They got a quarterback who's been there forever, who's definitely not the problem, by the way. He's a great quarterback. Matt Stafford he's amazing. He's just never had the help. They've had some bad coaches over the year. They've had Matt Patricia. Jim Caldwell was actually pretty good. They shouldn't have fired him.
They need to fire Patricia though.
Yeah,
it wasn't working out.
It was absolutely the right call. They should have hired him in the first place, but yeah, they got.
I guess I thought, he's a Patriot. He was on the Patriots. I guess they get some of that Patriot magic.
Yeah, but clearly that's not the case. The rookie running back looks pretty good, DeAndre Swift, and they got Stafford, who's great. They even have some good receivers. They got Marvin Jones, who's great. They have Kenny Golladay, who really has been pretty bad this year. Actually, he's been hurt a lot. They have T.J. Hawkinson, one of the best tight ends in the league. So lots of talent on offense, actually. Their defense, not too many big names there. I think that might be their weak point. Although, you look at their offense, they haven't been doing that well, or at least not as well as they should be doing this year. So they got to improve on all fronts, and I don't think they're really anywhere near being a playoff team, considering where this franchise is at. They're too far away. They haven't been able to do it in quite some time now. It's really, you look at the past decade between other than the Browns, this is probably the most depressing team to be a fan for because they have had nothing going on in the past decade. I just hope it'll change.
The only 2 franchises in NFL history to go 0-16, so
that's a good observation.
The Browns.
Yeah, that's true.
If you go 0-16, you're definitely like one of the worst franchises.
Yeah, that leaves a stain on your team history. And it's too bad. If they had Calvin Johnson, he'd probably still be good right now, actually, if he hadn't retired. He's an absolute physical specimen. But, they just got to pick up the pieces and get it going, draft a good defensive player. Good defensive end would do them a lot of good. I think that's where they're at as a franchise. By the way, they've got the most points allowed in the NFC. So that just goes to show you how poor their defense has been. So next team, who do you have 22nd?
22nd. Let me see.
I think it's time for another NFC least team.
Yeah. What are you thinking the Cowboys?
I'm thinking.
Wait, no,
I'm thinking the Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles.
You think so?
So at least the Cowboys did win this week. So
yeah, the Cowboys won this week. Eagles didn't, but there's some hope for the Eagles. You know why?
Yeah.
It's a little kid named Jalen Hurts, and that's the guy who's going to save their franchise. He looks like he's a star in the making. Could be wrong, but he had a phenomenal game last week. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, 60 yards rushing. It's everything you could ask for and more from a running quarterback like himself. They they're really weak at the wide receiver position. They need to get him some help, and a lot of the blame that was placed on Carson Wentz. I can understand he's regressed tremendously, but they haven't really put a great offense around him, so I can at least empathize with him a little bit. They have Miles Sanders, who's solid, not amazing, but you look at their wide receivers, Alshon Jeffrey completely washed up, Jalen Reagor not even close to what he was hyped out to be, Zach Ertz, big time regression from last year, Dallas Goedert, meh, and Travis Fulgham, he kind of emerged, but he's nothing much. He's nothing special really. So they don't really have a go-to guy. They don't have anyone I'd consider an above-average receiver. Miles Sanders is nice, but he's not even close to a star running back either. So they just need more talent on offense. That's what I think it comes down to. Their defense isn't even that bad. They got some talent. They got Fletcher Cox. They have Jalen Mills, Alex Singleton. They've got some guys. So I don't think that's their problem. I think what they need to do next year more than anything else is draft a star receiver, and they're going to have that opportunity given how bad the record's been.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. Like, I don't know. Jalen Hurts is outperforming Carson Wentz, the same mediocre weapons.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Carson Wentz just lost his confidence. Like, he's seeing all these backups doing better than him.
Yeah, he definitely did. And I think it has at least a little bit to do with the way the coach, Doug Peterson, is managing his quarterbacks. He's really letting Jalen Hurts use his legs and roll out of the pocket to make his throws. And I think that's something you saw throughout the season Carson Wentz wasn't doing. That's part of the reason why is because Doug Peterson wasn't designing those plays for him. And I think that was limiting him. So I still, obviously I'm trying to, it looks like I'm trying to defend Wentz as much as possible. But all I'm saying is you can't put all the blame on him, even though he's been by far the biggest disappointment out of any player this year. Because you're talking a former MVP candidate, just he becomes the worst quarterback in the National Football League. It's unheard of. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think we'll find a different home. We'll get one more shot at starting. That's my opinion. But it definitely won't be in Philadelphia. We're just going to have to wait and see on that. But I think the Eagles, they're not that far from being a good team again.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, Carson Wentz says he wants out. I don't know who's going to pick him up now, but
yeah, I mean, you look. There are a few teams that need a quarterback. If the Jets don't get that first overall pick, I mean, if they get second pick, they'll probably pick Justin Fields anyways. But maybe a team like the Panthers could use a guy like Carson Wentz. Although they already experimented with Bridgewater, I don't know how many times they want to go down that road. The Broncos could maybe try him out. There's a couple of teams that need a quarterback, and I think they'd be well suited to try Wentz out and give him a shot. Especially the Bears. You look at they started Foles too. He did carry them to a Super Bowl, but let's be real here. Wentz is better than Foles, at least in my opinion. Anyways, but yeah,
he definitely Foles is very inconsistent. So
yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of Foles at this stage in his career. I think he's pretty much washed up. He doesn't have it anymore. He really never did outside of that one great year and the one Super Bowl run. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay.
Great.
Where are we at?
You're at number
1.
Yeah.
So this is a close one between the Patriots and 49ers. But I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
Okay. Then this is
the worst record.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on them?
I mean, they lost 41-33 to the Cowboys. Got officially eliminated from the playoffs this week. Kyle Shanahan, just one winning season in 4 years in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and they just made it to the Super Bowl last year. So
I know. Talk about a fall from grace. That's what I've noticed with a lot of these teams. Actually, look at some of the Super Bowl teams that there have been. The Panthers, the Falcons, the Rams, the Niners. They have this one magical season, and then it all falls apart. I don't know why that is. I mean, look at the Panthers, 15-1. Next year, they're awful. Cam Newton just loses it. and then the Niners 14-2. This year they're 5-9. The Falcons also 15-1 or 14-2 or something, and they just fall from grace. I don't know why that's happening, but it's definitely happening to the Niners. They don't even look like a decent team this year. So I can't explain it aside from the obvious regression in the quarterback position.
I mean, there's one common denominator, at least for the 49ers and the Falcons, which is Kyle Shanahan, who's offensive coordinator for the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
And they choke that Super Bowl, and then he goes to the 49ers, becomes the head coach.
Yeah.
And they choke again.
Yeah.
Kind of a theme here. Like, he's got to work on
emerging there.
Clock management.
Yeah.
Decision making at the end of the games.
It's all Kyle Shanahan. He's running the show here. He's what's driving these teams to be so bad. But really, I think if you look at their numbers, it's actually hasn't been that bad. But it looks like their defense is under average and their offense is slightly under average. They're under average on both fronts, it looks like. But it seems like the offense is what's holding them back. Even though last year they were a top defense, they were elite. This year they're sort of average. So I don't know how that can be explained. Maybe the fact that Nick Bosa hasn't really been in the picture. But their quarterback, Garoppolo, complete fall. Deebo Samuel hasn't done much. Their running back, they had a crazy running game last year. Just disappeared. Mostert hasn't had the same kind of season. Had to rely on Jeff Wilson, who's not great. And the receivers, my God, the receivers are just awful. They got Kendrick Bourne, who he's just trash. Richie James, awful. Brandon Ayuk is a rookie. He's actually pretty good, but yeah, just not a whole lot of talent on that offense.
Yeah, I mean, they got plagued with injuries, which obviously didn't help. But
yeah, the injuries are definitely a factor. But they just
looks like
all of themselves.
A bit of a Super Bowl hangover right now.
Yeah, as it's happened with a lot of teams for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at this next tier here, the fifth tier.
It's like middle of the pack now.
Yeah, much. These are some teams that have a realistic shot at the playoffs. So,
yeah.
Out of that, what you will.
Those teams and any team in the NFC least still have a shot, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, my next pick would probably be someone in that division, and I think you know who it is.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe
it's only one. It's only one it can be. So it has to be the Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowgirls. Yeah.
Yep.
And they have been playing like a bunch of girls this year because, honestly, I don't want to be too hard on them because their quarterback Dak Prescott is hurt, but the defense is just a joke. And by the way, I want to make a special note to Amari Cooper that he cost me $20 because he put up 10 receiving yards and -7 rushing yards. Pretty much cost me my quarterfinals. So I just want to put that out there. Even though he's been great otherwise, I'll never forgive him for that.
You can't trust the Cowboys, man.
Yeah. Oh, and you want to know, my God, we're talking about the Cowboys. As long as we're on the subject, Ezekiel Elliott, the most overpaid, overhyped, overrated player in this entire league. I think you're looking at the same thing. That's what happened to Todd Gurley. Just a rapid decline before anyone would have thought he'd decline. Gurley's 26. Elliott's like 24, 25. These guys are already falling off the cliff. And there's guys like Derrick Henry who are only peaking at 26. I mean, Derrick Henry is older than Elliott, and he's just getting better every year. So I think part of it is the fact that Elliott got this massive contract and he just doesn't have the work ethic. I know a lot of people are going to use his offensive line as an excuse, but let's be honest, despite the injuries, a guy who's getting paid pretty much more than any other running back in the league should be producing more than under 4 yards a carry. I think that's pretty reasonable to ask, especially considering what Tony Pollard did in his first week as a replacement. Tony Pollard, in his first week as a replacement for Elliott, did better than anything Elliott's done this entire season. And Tony Pollard is an unknown backup running back who's never started a game in his life. So I think that's a pretty good indicator as to how Elliott's completely regressed. And to be quite honest with you, I'm ashamed that he's on my fantasy team. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, he definitely deserves a spot in the game plan after that.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah. No, this is a team that's not short on talent either. They got three amazing receivers in CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, and Gallup. They even got Dalton Schultz, who's pretty good as well. Dak Prescott, when healthy, one of the better quarterbacks in this league. So, yeah, they have no excuse to not be a playoff team next year. It's all going to be a matter of how their defense performs. And I guess how healthy they stay, since Prescott and Elliott have gotten hurt this year. But that'll be something to keep an eye on next year. They should definitely be the odds-on favorites to win it.
Yeah, definitely have a must-win matchup next week against the Eagles.
Yeah, who knows? They could make the playoffs this year still.
They could still do it this year.
Yeah.
Better yet next year. Still have a chance this year as well.
The Cowboys and the Giants, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. So that's all I'm going to say.
So next, what do we have next?
Next might be that team you mentioned a bit earlier.
The Patriots?
New England Patriots. I think that's our last sub-500 team. Or, well, no, there's Washington, but and there's the Vikings as well.
And the Vikings.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Patriots seem like a fitting team to be ranked here. What do you think?
I think Cam Newton he just, like you said, after that Super Bowl year, it's just been a decline, man. Like, he's never been the same.
Yeah.
And I don't think he really fits like New England. Like Tom Brady and Cam Newton, completely different players, completely different types of quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different system for Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had some good games. Obviously, he got hit with COVID for a few weeks. That didn't help, but even like weeks after that, he was still struggling. Like they got destroyed by the Niners a couple weeks back, and they lose this week. They lose Miami, and Miami's missing several playmakers on offense. Still managed to lose that. I mean, they had Stephon Gilmore was out, and but still, like you didn't expect this from this team. Like after 20 years of dominance, it's definitely new.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna say I didn't expect this from this team, but I did expect this from this quarterback, and one of the reasons why is, as you mentioned, since that Super Bowl, he's been all right, but slowly but surely he's been regressing, and it really culminated this year when he's thrown 5 touchdowns as a passer in 13 games, 10 interceptions. You talk about Wentz being the worst quarterback in the league. I think he falls second to Cam Newton because what he's done this year has been absolutely embarrassing. You look at his passer rating, 79.6, 44.7 quarterback rating. I wouldn't be surprised if those were in like the bottom 3 to 5 of all quarterbacks. He's led an unbelievable dynasty to a losing record. So I think you can lie the blame squarely on the shoulders of Cam Newton. And I know there's a lot of fangirls who will stick up for him, but this is a quarterback who's been given every opportunity and who really he's wasted it. And part of it's because of his mentality. He has a really big ego. Part of it's because he's just not the athlete that he used to be. But, whichever way you slice it, he's never going to be a good quarterback again. He's never going to be close to what he's done previously. And I think you can pretty much write off his career at this point. I don't think there's a place for him as a starting quarterback next year. And you talk about teams that need a guy like Carson Wentz. I think you can add the Patriots as one of those teams. They could use a pocket passer like Brady, and I think Carson Wentz fits that bill. I don't think Cam Newton was a good fit for the Patriots. I don't think he's a good fit for any team, given how abhorrent he's been at the position. I don't think he has the talent anymore, and I don't think he has the game IQ. I don't think he ever had it. I don't think he ever had the quarterback IQ of a guy like Russell Wilson. And I have zero faith in him at this point.
I don't know. Is it looking like it's fair to say the dynasty was more Brady than Belichick at this point? I mean,
yeah, no, that's not fair to say. Yeah, it's absolutely fair. You look at what Brady's done. Granted, he's had a lot more talent to work with than Belichick, but
definitely left at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think Brady was the greater of those two beasts in his time at New England. And yeah, it's pretty much showing this year. They went what 12-4 last year, 11-5 or something, and this year they're 6-8. So you see it. It's in flying colors. They're just not the team they used to be, and I don't think they will be for quite some time now.
All right.
Next
Moving
team.
on.
Yeah.
I have the Vikings next.
Vikings. Okay.
How about you? Would you agree with that?
No, I would agree with that.
Back-to-back losses to the Bucks and the Bears. This puts them in a very difficult place to make the playoffs. Not really realistic at this point. Run defense gashed by David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their pass defense, didn't do a good job against Mitch Trubisky.
Trubisky even had a good game.
Yeah, just
yeah. I mean,
never really had a shot to make the playoffs this year, but it's looking tough now.
Yeah, no, they're facing an uphill battle for sure. Yeah, no, I think it's unfortunate because this is actually a team I really like, and despite them losing to the Bears, I actually might even put them ahead of the Bears given their circumstances. However, it's only fair that they're ranked behind the Bears and that they're ranked 18th because they haven't been performing to the level that their talent suggests they should be performing. And it's the same as some of these other really talented teams like the Chargers and the Falcons. They have Kirk Cousins, who is pretty average, or even below average, I might say. Although he had a good game against the Panthers, 3 touchdowns. That was like 4 weeks back. But yeah, they got Dalvin Cook, arguably the best running back in the league. Justin Jefferson, soon to be one of the best receivers in the league, or he already is, but he's going to get even better next year. They have Adam Thielen, who's a beast, and they have a ton of talent on offense. And they actually have a good defense. Danielle Hunter's been injured this season. He's normally one of the best defensive ends in the league. They've got Eric Wilson, a great linebacker, and they really do have some talent all around. So I think this is a team that should have made the playoffs this year. They just didn't live up to the expectations. Whatever you attribute that to, whether it be the offense underperforming, notably the passing game, or the defense underperforming, I think we can all agree that this is a team that's living below its potential. And, I just hope that this team can be better next year because they have all the talent in the world to do so.
Hey, well, at least if they made the playoffs, most likely they might get matched up with the Saints first. And we all know how that usually goes between the Vikings and the Saints. So might be able to somehow manage to get a playoff win out of that.
Yeah, it's Stephon Diggs, miracle catch. I think we know how that would go. Probably Jefferson would do the same thing, and ironic they got traded for each other. So yeah. That's the 18th team. Who do you got 17?
17. 17.
This is interesting because I actually have a couple teams that I'd put in the running.
Yeah, literally a couple. It's between two teams for me.
Who?
Between the football team and the Raiders.
I'm saying Raiders and Bears.
Raiders and Bears? Okay, so let's go with Raiders.
You gonna say Raiders? Okay, let's do Raiders.
Because at least the football team, they're winning their division, even though they're
and they actually
below
did
500
better than the record suggests.
Yeah.
So what do you think on the Raiders?
Hey, I mean, they beat the unbeatable team, Kansas City Chiefs, their first meeting. That was their highest point of the season.
Yep.
After that, just been pretty mediocre. I mean, another terrible loss. What was it? Yeah, they fall out of the AFC playoff picture this week. Lost in overtime to the Chargers. There's enough football. I mean, they look good at first. an opening possession of the overtime, but John Gruden, he's unable to, he just can't make the big plays when they count. Like,
Yeah, you know what I think it is with this team? I think their offense is actually quite good. It's not bad, but this is a team that's given up more points than any other team except for the Jaguars. And you look at the Raiders' history; they're defined by their toughness on defense. They just haven't had that this year. Their defense has been a joke, and that's the reason they haven't been able to do what they're supposed to do. It's because their defense is holding them back. They got Corey Littleton, took a huge step back this year after signing his contract. Nick Kwiatkowski, or Kwiatkowski or whatever, he's not great. They don't have talent on defense, and you would think that John Gruden would be able to bring that to them, but he hasn't been able to. They got Derek Carr, who's having his best year ever, and they got Josh Jacobs, first round pick last year, who's really been underperforming, but is a really talented running back. They got Darren Waller, like arguably the second best tight end in the league behind Kelsey. Then they got, the receivers are a bit weak. They got Aguilar, they got Renfro, so that's not too strong. But the offense isn't the problem. It's the defense. And if they had a good defense, they'd be in a playoff spot right now. And they started off hot, but lately it's been their defense that's been holding them back. They gave up 30 points to the Chargers, 44 points to the Colts. They gave up 28 points to the Jets. So I think that speaks volumes. And then the week before that, 43 points to the Falcons. So I think it's pretty evident what the problem is. And they're really going to have to load up on that defense in this year's draft because it's just not cutting it the way they've been playing. And that's another team that could be competing for the playoffs right now.
Yeah, had a good start. Nick Foles, very inconsistent. Feel like that's start to decline near the end of the season. Yeah.
Nick Foles on the Bears.
Yeah, should have. I don't know. I feel like maybe he works better in the Eagles system for sure. I'll say that.
On the Bears, rather than the Raiders.
Sorry, what was that?
I think we're talking about the Raiders.
Oh, Raiders. Oh man. My bad.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I meant Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Pretty inconsistent.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. A lot of people say he should be replaced. I actually think he's been a bright spot, but it has been a lot of years he's been on the team. Hasn't been able to lead them to the playoffs outside of that 1 year. He's 29 years old. He's had his chances, but I do think they should at least stick it out with him for a bit. He's got 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's on pace for 4,000 yards. I think he's doing well enough to justify him remaining the starter. So I think they should give him another shot, at least with an improved defense, and see what that yields before they consider replacing him.
I mean, this might be like their second best chance, other than that 1 year, to make the playoffs.
1 year they went off, but yeah, this year they have a great chance, and they should have made it. And you look at the coach, maybe it's time for John Gruden to go after signing that huge contract.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that's where I stand on this team. So who do you have next at 16, new tier?
All right. Yeah. Now this is the inconsistent quarterback I accidentally started talking about first. Nick Foles on the Bears, which is the next team. So, yeah, earlier this month, Bears were looking great, man.
Same as Raiders.
Started off really good, got off to a really fast start, and competition improved, and they weren't exactly driven anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the offense was like fun to watch, but after Foles went out, Trubisky, he's playing with a lot of confidence. They got the running back David Montgomery.
Yeah, no, it's
touchdown for straight games.
Yeah, it's nice what they've done on offense lately.
Yeah.
I mean, despite it being their weak point throughout the season, I mean, it's definitely their offense that's been holding them back this year, especially Trubisky. David Montgomery's been pretty solid throughout the year, but Trubisky's really been the big issue. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and he's definitely stepped up his game lately since he won the job back from Foles. And I think this is the way to go, at least for the time being. I mean, I don't, whether he's the long-term answer, I don't know, but he definitely seems like he's good enough to lead them to a playoff spot. And I don't know if we'll be able to this year, but something to look out for. They could make some noise in the postseason with that defense of theirs, and that running back Montgomery, who's shown a lot of promise. Their wide receivers, Allen Robinson, he's really great. So I think he gives them a viable threat in the passing game for the secondary to key in on. So I think they got some talent on that team to make some noise in the postseason if they do make it.
Yeah, at this point though, probably have to rely on other teams to not perform good to be able to make the playoffs, which is never a spot you want to be in.
Yeah, they're not in an ideal spot, and really they pretty much have Trubisky to blame, or their quarterback play, because Foles also hasn't been very good in his own right. So, yeah, I think that's what they're going to need to look at going forward, because the rest of their team actually looks quite solid.
Okay. So next, who do you have next?
Who do I have? Well, let's see. I think you want to put the football team next. And there are a couple other teams I think were struggling, but I think you have to put the 6-8 team over a 9-4 team or whatever. So, I'm definitely going to put the football team next. Although they're trending upwards, and I like how they're looking. They barely lost. The Seahawks were a great team. Beat the Niners. Didn't lose to the Steelers by much. They've had a pretty tough schedule. They crushed the Cowboys. They
beat the Steelers.
Oh, sorry. The Steelers streak. They beat the Steelers. Yeah, my bad. They've looked great lately. Going into last week, they won 4 straight games, and not the easiest opponents. Cowboys, Niners, Steelers. Those teams aren't jokes. And they lost to the Seahawks, but even then, they only lost by 5. They got a good team. They have a solid group of players. They have a great defense. Chase Young looks like he looks like everything he's been hyped out to be. They have Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, who's a beast. Their quarterback play between Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith has looked pretty serviceable, but it's really that defense that's shining through for them. They got a great defense, and it's paying dividends for them. They've only given up 295 points, which is one of the best points allowed in the entire NFC, only behind the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. And they look like they can surprise a team like the Bucs if they match up together in the playoffs. That's what it's looking like at this point, and I think they have a lot of potential. They just need to make sure their offense is on point, that their running back's solid, and that they can wear teams down like they tend to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Haskins replaced Alex Smith this week. Had a two second half touchdown drives. Gave them a chance to win in the final minute.
Yeah.
Pretty close. And defense, Chase Young's looking to be a promising pick.
Oh yeah, Chase Young looks great. Yeah.
If all goes well, they're gonna win the division and get a home playoff game at 7 at best 8-8, probably 7-9, which is wild, but that's the NFL,
Yeah, I mean, who they even have on their schedule right now for the last 2 games? I think they're facing the Cowboys, is it? They're facing the Panthers next week. Oh no, the Eagles in week 17. So those are 2 very beatable teams. So they should finish 8-8 if all goes well. But regardless, I like their chances of pulling off an upset going into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So now we're looking at the teams, many of whom are probably going to make the playoffs. So it's a matter of from this point on.
Okay, so for me, number 14. Well, got to be the Cardinals, number 14.
Cardinals, okay. Yeah, I mean, they won against the Eagles. I might say the Rams because they lost to the Jets, but no, the Cardinals we can put. They're 8-6. They're definitely they're a team that's had its ups and downs. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, just an absolute star, Kyler Murray. He's been unbelievable this season. Kenyon Drake is no joke at running back. They got arguably the best receiver in the league in DeAndre Hopkins. This is a really scary team. I don't think anyone wants to face this team going in the playoffs. Their defense is also super solid. They got Budda Baker, arguably the best secondary player in the league. Patrick Peterson, another great secondary player. Hassan Reddick, who had that crazy 5-sack game, excuse me, a couple weeks back. Isaiah Simmons, he's a rookie who's been stepping up lately. And Jordan Hicks, not to mention, they got so much talent on this team that it's looking like it's gonna be hard to stop them, whoever they face.
Yeah, they clearly have a lot of depth on the depth chart. Kyler Murray, lucky to have DeAndre Hopkins. Thanks to Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, completely robbed them.
Yeah, that definitely helped them this season a lot.
Yeah,
making Kyler Murray's he's in the MVP conversation, but they definitely put him in there, but not leading it, but he's definitely in there.
They look like beat any team too. They've beaten a lot of the best teams. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Bills. They beat some amazing football teams. They beat the Niners in Week 1 when they were mostly healthy. They're beating some great teams, and they're losing to some so-so teams like the Patriots, but they've shown they can contend with whoever. So I think that's really promising when you look at the prospects they have for the playoffs.
Yeah, if they make the playoffs, I could see them definitely making somewhat of a run.
Yeah, that's going to be the question if they do make it, which I personally think they will. Then this is a team that could do some real damage, and they're sitting at the 14 spot now, but a few more strong performances against the Niners and the Rams, they could definitely shoot up this board.
Okay, so next, so the next 3 teams, all 9-5.
Yeah, I think you got
of all of them. I put the Rams.
Yeah,
because they lost to.
Jets.
If you lose to a winless team,
like that, they're lucky we put them ahead of the Cardinals. Really.
Yeah, you can't be a top 10 team if you lose to a winless.
It's crazy how they're losing to some of these questionable teams. I mean, they lost to an injured Niners team a few weeks ago. They lost to the Jets. Although the Jets have been playing better lately, but they lost to them. And I really wonder if they'll be able to win during the playoffs. I have my doubts. I'm not going to lie to you because I really like that Cardinals team a lot more. Their quarterback's better. Kyler Murray's definitely better than Jared Goff. Their running back, Kenyon Drake, Cam Akers, they're both interchangeable. Pretty much average running backs. But then the receivers, Rams don't have a DeAndre Hopkins. They got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, a lot of good talent there. Those are both above average receivers. No stars, though. And that's something that may hurt them in the playoffs. And their defense is definitely solid. Definitely a lot better than the Cardinals. This is a team that's got the best defensive player in the league, Aaron Donald. That's part of the reason they're in this position. And they've got some other talent as well. They got Leonard Floyd. They got they got Jalen Ramsey. So this is a team that's got a lot of talent on defense, and that's going to be their go-to for the playoffs. And I don't want to overemphasize offense because I keep talking about offensive players, but this team's defense could shut a lot of teams down. I think that's going to be their biggest asset going into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Rams next 2 weeks are going to be their most important of the whole season. 2 divisional rivals, and the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and I think they should be ahead of the Cardinals because they have a better chance of winning the division than the Cardinals, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they win out their last 2 weeks, they're the NFC West champions. I think they'll at least beat the Cardinals. I think they match up well against the Cardinals, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see what happens.
They do their first. They beat the Cardinals just a few weeks ago. These next 2 weeks, these NFC West matchups, they're going to be very telling of how these 3 teams stack up amongst each other. So right now, it looks like the Seahawks are the best team. 2 weeks' time, it could be a completely different picture. That's just something to keep in mind. as we head into the top 12 teams remaining. These are all really good teams that have a shot at the Super Bowl. And I guess the question is, which of these teams looks least likely to make a run, given what we've seen in recent weeks?
Well, of what I think,
I don't want
must be the Dolphins.
Could be the Dolphins. The Dolphins do look scary. I was gonna say, I don't want to put the Saints too low. They are a division leader right now, but they've lost their 2 last games. Drew Brees looks shaky, but we are gonna go with the Dolphins here at the 12th spot. This is a really, really improved team that made leaps I didn't expect them to make. Although I love their quarterback going in when they drafted him, I loved him. I loved him at Alabama. I loved everything he's about. He's got a great work ethic, great quarterback IQ, just a great all-around guy, and he's got the talent to back it up. He's the sort of guy who he might not put up the best numbers, but he's going to win you ball games, and he's shown that since he replaced Fitzpatrick. He's shown that he's a leader, that he's a complete game manager, and that he can make the necessary throws and the necessary adjustments. This is a guy who, if they make it far, it's going to be because of this guy, along with that obviously elite defense that they have going on. They've allowed the fewest points in the NFL to this point. They have Kyle Van Noy, put up a few sacks a few weeks ago. Jerome Baker, one of the best linebackers in the league. Xavier Howard. This team is flush with talent on the defensive front. And that's also, like the Rams, going to be what probably sets them apart from other teams, but it's that quarterback as well. They have a quality quarterback. That's what's also going to lead them to that nice playoff run they want to make. You look at the other talent on their offense, running back, they're very weak in that position. They do have Savon Ahmed, who went off for the first 100-yard rushing game in close to 2 years for the Dolphins, just to show you how bad the running game's been since Lamar Miller left. And their wide receivers, they don't have a whole lot. They don't have a whole lot. They've got some injuries. But overall, one of the weaker wide receiver cores in the National Football League. So their defense, it's going to be a challenge. But with Tua, I think that he can lead them to an upset playoff win as a wild card. And I think that's going to be something to look out for. I'd be scared to face them if I were any other team in the AFC.
Yeah, for sure. They, managed to pull off a 22-12 win against the Patriots without Devontae Parker or Mike Gesicki, who's one of the top tight ends in the league right now.
Yeah.
And they knocked the Patriots out of the playoffs for the first time in however long. So definitely great potential.
It's huge.
Looks promising.
Mind you, they almost beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. They were actually winning throughout the early part of that game. And they're, as Tua matures, I think he's going to take that next step and allow them to close out games against those top teams like the Chiefs. He's just not there yet, but I think he's got the world of potential to go off of, and I think he's going to do some great things.
Okay, let's move on.
Next,
number 12.
Some really good teams left.
Based on what you said about the Saints,
I
think you might disagree with my pick.
Okay.
But this is their main division rival, who they destroyed the first time and destroyed worse the second time when they had a better team.
That's fair. I can't argue with that. That's completely fair.
It has to be the Buccaneers now, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great point because they did get crushed both times, and they didn't just lose; they got crushed, 38-3 the second time around. First time around it was a better team, 34-23, but it was a blowout. I remember that game. The Bucs, man, this is tough because you know what it looks like, Amari. It looks like the reason they're going to lose in the playoffs is because of Tom Brady, but it looks like the reason they're going to win is Tom Brady. And this isn't something you can say about a lot of teams, but you look at the roster composition. They are stacked at every position. The only question mark is the quarterback position, and it can potentially be their strongest one. Their running back, Ronald Jones, above average, sometimes looks elite even. The best wide receiver core in the league. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, that's second to none, not to mention Cameron Braid and Rob Gronkowski. and Scotty Miller as well. There's just no doubt they have the most talent on that end. Their defense is unbelievable. Jason Pierre-Paul having one of his best seasons, and they just look amazing on. They got Devin White, arguably one of the best defensive talents aside from Aaron Donald. He went absolutely off last week with what he did. 3 sacks, 12 tackles. You just don't see that out of your average linebacker. They got Levante David, who's been a stud for years now. Shaquille Barrett, who had umpteen sacks last year. They got Ndamukong Suh. They are absolutely stacked on every aspect. They got the best team in the NFL on paper. They have not been able to really put it all together and get that chemistry going. If they do, I see this as a 14-2 or 15-1 team. It's just a matter of how well Brady is able to execute and deliver on this team's talent, which they have tons of. That is my opinion for this team.
Exactly. Like, that's the problem. All the talent they have, they should be way higher on this list, but
yeah,
they've had ups and lows the whole season.
Yeah.
And you can't put them any higher than this.
Yeah, I've noticed that they get off to slow starts. They were losing big against the Falcons, and this is something we've seen many times before. They were losing huge against the Chiefs, came back, only lost by 3. This is a team that gets off to slow starts, and I mean, I don't know if it's a Brady thing that he just turns it to a different gear in the second half, but it's definitely something that's concerning, and it's forcing them into some uncomfortable situations. They really haven't looked like a complete team outside of that one huge victory against the Panthers the week after they got killed by the Saints. And that was the second week they had Antonio Brown, and that's really the only time I've seen them really fulfill their potential, and they're going to have to do that if they want to make any kind of run this year.
For sure, man, for sure. Now, it starts really getting tough now.
You know who I'm leaning towards? I'm looking at that AFC South, and I'm looking at those two teams. I don't think they're both going to make huge runs. They're both they're good, they're great. I don't know that either one's actually going to make the AFC Championship or Super Bowl.
Now, of those two teams, so I'm guessing,
or the Saints. Honestly, I could go either one. It's all you.
I definitely don't feel like putting the Saints that low because
you
know, Drew Brees, he needs some time to just get back into the groove, and once he does, I feel like they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So if we're going AFC South, then the Colts are next.
I would definitely put the Colts. I would definitely agree with you on that. If anything, maybe the Colts were too high, but the Colts are 10-4. You can't. You got to give them credit for that. And they're an underrated team. They're an overlooked team. They're a team that's got Phillip Rivers, who's been really sneaky good this year, who's been a great quarterback throughout his career, and is just consistently leading his team to playoff runs. Or to playoff appearances, I should say runs, because he's never really made it that far in the playoffs. That's something that's held him back. Will that be different with the Colts now? I guess we'll see. It doesn't look like it because they are 10-4, but let's look at some of the games they've lost. Their 4 losses, they lost the Titans, a top team. They lost to the Ravens, another top team. They lost to the Browns, another top team. And they lost to the Jaguars, a bad team. But do you see the common trend here? The trend is that they can't beat the top teams. And that's something that's plagued Rivers in the past. And I think Rivers, while a great quarterback, is what's going to hold them back from being the contender that they should be. They got a great team outside of that. Jonathan Taylor having a great rookie season. Maybe not great, but solid. T.Y. Hilton kind of stepped back. Michael Pittman Jr., an intriguing rookie. So not the most talent on the wide receiver end. But their defense is also great. They got Darius Leonard, top linebacker in the league, arguably. And then they got so much talent on defense. It's just a matter, can they put it all together? And I want to hear what you think about that.
Right. What I think is those teams you mentioned, those are teams they could possibly face in the playoffs. Yeah. If they can't beat any of the playoff caliber teams, how far can they really go in the playoffs? Like
100%.
Not that far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're in place to win this division. I don't know. I think the Titans might take it now.
Yeah,
It's not looking good for them.
the last two matchups, they got a free win against the Jaguars, but they're facing the Steelers next week, who, mind you, have lost 3 straight games, but they're going to be hungry to not.
I think the Steelers are coming in hot to that game. They're gonna want to end that losing streak for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I will note that the Colts did have one really impressive win against the Packers, that overtime game they had. So they have beaten the top team, but they've definitely shown an inability to beat a lot of the top teams, and that's something that they're going to have to improve upon and fix if they want to make that run with Rivers. And who knows, this could be one of Rivers' last chances to do so.
All right. Well, who do you have next?
Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. I don't want to put the Browns too high since I don't think they are one of the top teams. But at the same time, they're coming off a really impressive win, and they gave a really good fight against the Ravens. So I'm looking at either the Titans or the Saints, and I might even no, I'm not going to say the Seahawks. I'm looking at the Titans or the Saints, and I don't want to put the Saints too low because you did make a good point earlier. So I'm going to put the Titans right ahead of the Colts because they are neck and neck in my opinion. So the Titans are ranked 9th. You look at the games against the Colts. They beat the Colts the first time, 45-26. They beat them the second time. They lost them the first time, 34-17. So these are teams, I don't think there's a huge gap between them. They're definitely completely different teams because whereas the Colts rely on Phillip Rivers to carry them through, the Titans rely on, let me think, the best back in the National Football League, King Henry, Derrick Henry, the guy who is pushing on close to 2,000 yards this year. And they got Corey Davis as a wide receiver. They got A.J. Brown as a wide receiver. Those are two amazing wide receivers. And Ryan Tannehill's thrown to them. Ryan Tannehill's an amazing quarterback in his own right. Huge resurgence after he left the Dolphins and was a backup for a little while. But Henry is the story here. This is the best running back in the entire football league. He cannot be stopped, okay? He is a freight train who runs like a running back, but is built like a defensive end. This is the kind of guy you want leading your team. This is the guy who knocked out the Patriots and ended their run last year when a lot of people predicted for them to win the Super Bowl. This is the guy who's going to carry them through. Their defense is also nothing to scoff at. Although it's not as big of a strong point as the Colts, they have a solid defense. They have a solid offensive line even. They've just got a solid team all around. And I think it's going to be that running game that paces the game and keeps them in front that's going to win them some ball games. That's going to be the key for them this postseason. We'll see if they can do it, but I think their upside is kind of capped by the defense that's not elite and by the sometimes shaky passing game. A.J. Brown has taken a bit of a step back. So, yeah, we're going to have to take a look on that and see what they can do. But Derrick Henry, he looks special this year.
Yeah, I think for the Titans to be real Super Bowl contenders, they got to find a way to not be so reliant on Derrick Henry. The teams might eventually – I mean, it's hard to adjust to a guy like that, but when that's their best thing going for them, they might eventually find a way. And, same thing happened to Lamar Jackson, like, in the playoffs last year. Like, this same team found out a way to adjust to it. So, other teams might be able to do that to them. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, he's looking promising. Impressive performance this week.
Yeah,
46-25.
Yeah,
might be able to do it. If Derrick Henry wasn't, let's say he was like injured or something, they'd still be pretty promising. So
they actually do have a great offense. I think they're gonna have to learn to not be so reliant on Henry to win. But their offense is really something else. They have more points than the Chiefs. I don't know if you knew that. They've basically got more points than anyone in the National Football League right now, is what I'm looking at. And their offense is basically, it's stacked. They got an amazing quarterback, an amazing running back, some great wide receivers. It's that defense that's going to kind of hold them back. And you look at some of the players on their defense. They got Clowney, who's been hurt. They have Adoree Jackson. it's not great. They got some injuries, and the talent isn't really that great compared to some of the other defenses like the Bucks that we've listed out, like the Dolphins, like the Rams. They're gonna have to make sure their defense keeps them in it, and that's what I think the key is.
Right. Now, I know you'd probably like to put the Saints next.
Yeah.
On,
we don't have
how,
to.
Yeah, I know how you know how Drew Brees played, but
Yeah.
still they lost by 3 points that game to the best unbeatable team in football, right? So
yeah, a sneaky team that I could put 8th here is the Steelers. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Steelers.
Yeah,
it's got to be the Steelers next.
Yeah, I think so. That's the team that just a few weeks ago is first on a lot of people's boards, but their team they've lost 3 games in a row. To say it's been bad is an understatement, and I don't know. What do you think they got to improve on?
Definitely got to improve on offense. Definitely like Ben Roethlisberger. His arm isn't the same as it used to be. This week against the Bengals threw an interception with like a minute and like 50 seconds left on the clock, giving the Bengals enough time to run out the clock and
it's tough. Yeah,
take the game. And now they're in a position where they might not even win the division after going 11-0. I know, like
Browns
could still win the
Browns
division.
are playing them actually in week 17.
Yeah, so they need to win they need to win that game, and I don't know if they could do it at this point.
Yeah.
So the Browns are on the upside, they're on the downside, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. No, they lost to 2 sub 500 teams in the past 3 weeks. Yeah. Lost the Bills, which I guess is sort of forgivable, but there's just no excuse for losing to the Bengals and their backup quarterback. This is a real low point for them. I don't think you could really create a lower point than the one they're at right now. Roethlisberger had a terrible game. He's been on a really bad run lately. The passing game's been non-existent. They got the world of talent at wide receiver. They got Chase Claypool, who looks like he's a star in the making. Juju Smith-Schuster, who was a star 3 years ago with Antonio Brown, but lately hasn't done much. They got Deontay Johnson, who's emerged as a top threat, and they still can't do anything with all that talent. Even when they were undefeated, it seemed like they were overrated because they were almost losing to a lot of these bad teams like the Cowboys that 1 week. It just seems like this is a team whose demise was sort of inevitable given the lack of talent on offense. James Conner has been hurt, and even when he has been healthy, he hasn't looked like the same guy. It really just comes down to that offense being lackluster. While their defense, on the other hand, is second to none. They've had Devin Bush out for a while now, who was one of the top linebackers, and they're still doing amazing because TJ Watt is looking like a generational talent. Cameron Hayward is a top defensive lineman. Minkah Fitzpatrick, just a great secondary player. They got some real legitimate talent on the defensive side of the football field. And that's just going to be key for them to drive them through. But what's going to be more key is how that offense produces, because they have the talent to get it done. It's a matter of whether Ben Roethlisberger can really pick up his game to where it was earlier in the season and get them to where they need to go, because they're not going to be running through teams just with their defense. They're going to have to start scoring some points as well.
Yeah. I'll say this. If Juju had as many touchdowns as he did TikToks, they'd probably still be undefeated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Those TikToks need to go. I'm sure Mike Tomlin's not going to be too happy with them after last game. So, that phone might get confiscated.
So next for me, I have the Seahawks next, I think.
Seahawks, okay. That's fair.
So that'll make them number 7.
Yeah, they're a tough team to assess because they, the thing about, they have a top quarterback, obviously, a guy who earlier in the season looked like he was the MVP. Overall, they have a top offense. Their offense, they scored 413 points. They're great. Their defense, which was, a few years ago a strong point when they were making those Super Bowl runs with the Legion of Boom, that's actually not that strong a point now for their football team. They're relying on Russell Wilson, who is a magician, and Chris Carson, who's a great running back, and obviously the freak of nature DK Metcalf, as a wide receiver in Tyler Lockett. They got two of the best wide receivers in the league for Russell Wilson to throw to, and that's just been instrumental to the success. And on defense, they once looked impenetrable, but guys like Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Jamal Adams, those guys are stars. But aside from that, it's just not cutting it. They got Stephon Diggs' brother, Quandre Diggs, and it's tough because I feel like this is a team that if they shored up their defense and got it to where it could be, this is a team that could be contending for the Super Bowl, and they still are going to contend for a Super Bowl. This is a team I'd be feeling a lot better about going into the playoffs. Having said that, they have looked good recently. They killed the Jets 40-3. They beat a really hot Washington football team, but before that, they did lose to the Giants. So I guess it's just a matter of how that defense will hold up, because I have no doubt in their offense. It's spectacular.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah, they just need to give Russ some more help. Let Russ actually cook. I mean, obviously they have the freak of nature in DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Helps a lot. But the defense, the days of the Legion of Boom, those are gone. They really need, it'd be nice if they could get back to the old ways.
Yeah, you look at the Legion of Boom. It used to be Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, and Earl Thomas. All those guys are gone. Now all they have is Jamal Adams in the secondary. They got really no one else of note.
Jamal Adams. All he could do is blitz people. They call him Blitz Boy.
But, yeah, I haven't heard of that, but he's definitely talks a lot of trash.
Yeah, if he made his game more well-rounded, defense would improve a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, he's got some stuff to work on for himself, for sure.
Okay, so who do you have number 6?
Okay, so what I noticed is that we have two teams from the AFC North, and neither of them are even the division leaders right now. So I think one of those teams that got to come off the board next. I feel bad for putting a 9-5 team like the Ravens in the top 5, but they have been so dominant lately that I feel like I have to. So I'm going to put the Browns at 6, and this might get a lot of speculation from our limited fan base of 0 subscribers, but the Browns, they are a team that's emerged, but I can't put them ahead of the Ravens, especially when the Ravens just beat them 2 weeks ago, 47-42, in one of the best games of this season. The Browns are a team that were held back by their lack of a quarterback in any sort of system that could be consistent. But that has obviously changed. Baker Mayfield in the past few weeks has emerged as a star. He's clearly the answer for their franchise quarterback need that they've been missing for the past decade. He's the guy. He made 27 out of 32 passes for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. That's a star right there. That, my friend, is a star. Okay? They have a dominant running game. The best two-headed monster in the game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. There's no problems there. Baker Mayfield's been better since Odell Beckham's been down. So I don't think the receiver talent is a problem. They got Jarvis Landry, who's a beast. They got Rashard Higgins. They got Donovan Peoples-Jones. They got Austin Hooper at the tight end position. They have enough talent at wide receiver. And you look at their defense, Myles Garrett, he's one of the stars of this league. He's a beast. They got some talent on defense, although I think that's where they're going to have to really improve. Sheldon Richardson got hurt in their last game. He's been good. He's on my fantasy team. He's not bad, actually. I think it's that defense that's going to really have to improve, because the offense is everything that we expected it could be. But that defense, it's been rough, to say the least. I think they might have the most points allowed out of any playoff team currently. They've allowed 374 points, which is worse than some non-playoff teams like the Bengals even. They actually have a negative point differential, which is kind of misleading because they got killed a bit earlier in the season when they did lose. But lately, even when they've lost against the Ravens, they've kept it close. So they've really improved as a football team. I just think it's a matter of how that defense will perform in the playoffs, and if Baker Mayfield can sustain his dominance, because that running game will surely not be an issue.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a 20-6 victory this week against the Giants. Mayfield's locked in for sure. They got a killer
Oh,
running game.
no.
Kareem Hunt's still in, right? He's not injured or anything, or if I'm not
Sorry.
mistaken.
Which player?
Yeah, Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt? No, I believe he played last week.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, running game is killer. Cleveland definitely a dangerous team, but like we said, the Ravens have their number. Swept
Oh,
them this year again.
yeah,
Just can't seem to get. That's like their kryptonite. Can't seem to get past them.
yeah.
I'd love to put them top five, but
Mm-hmm.
they got to be able to, beat the Ravens at least once.
Yeah, and that's
And
also
they're definitely ahead of them.
yeah. No, they got to beat the Ravens once, and their inexperience in the playoffs. I feel like that's part of the reason they're not ahead of some of these teams in the pecking order. Yeah. So we're down to our top five teams now, and I have a pretty clear idea of who the top three will be. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think it's between those Chiefs, Packers, and Bills for the top three.
Yeah,
I think it's either the
definitely.
Ravens or Saints for that fifth spot. So who do you
Yeah.
got?
I know you probably want to put the Saints at five, but
Mm,
I have to go for the Ravens.
yeah. Now, even with that momentum of the Saints losing two in a row and the Ravens winning three in a row, I I think you got to put the Ravens there because throughout this season, they haven't been quite as good. Even though lately they've looked great, they still only beat the Browns by 5 2 weeks ago. Although last week against the Jaguars, that was a statement game. They won by 26 points. No doubt about it, Lamar Jackson is still a top quarterback. Even if he's not MVP caliber now, he's still a guy who can lead his team to the Super Bowl. He's still a star. I think he proved that he's for real. They got Mark Andrews, star tight end. They got J.K. Dobbins, who's been emerging. He wasn't so good at the start of the season, but just last week, 64 yards and a touchdown, 4.6 yards per carry. This is the guys for real. Their defense, also great. They got the best corner in the league, Marlon Humphrey, signed that massive contract. Their first round pick, Patrick Queen, has been a star, although he slowed down a bit in the last few weeks. He got a sack this week, so that was very good to see. They got Yannick Ngakui, maybe botching that name, but he's great. Matt Judon. They got a great defense. They got a great all-around team. It's kind of miraculous they're not in five because they're a lot better than the record lets on. They lost the Chiefs. They lost the Steelers. They lost to a lot of good teams. They lost they even lost the Patriots. They actually lost the Steelers twice. But yeah, that's really what the story has been, is them choking against some of these top teams earlier in the season. But I don't think that'll continue. In fact, this might actually be my pick to win the Super Bowl.
Interesting. Yeah, Ravens definitely a good team. I feel like the second time they lost to the Steelers, have most of the players, including Lamar Jackson, had a whole COVID situation going on.
Mm-hmm.
Things were different. Maybe the result of that game might have been different. But yeah, I have to put on number five now, even though I put them in number five because winning by 20 points to who we have ranked as the worst team in the league, I don't think that's as impressive as losing by 3 points to what everybody's saying is the most unbeatable team in the league, which is
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Chiefs Saints game.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're definitely on the rise, after a rocky middle of the season. Um, yeah, I feel like they definitely make it further than the Browns right now. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a bit more playoff experience than the Browns.
Yeah.
Uh, even though Lamar Jackson's 0-2 in playoff games, but I feel like that's definitely going to change this year.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
confident in that.
I have no doubt he's gonna. Who are they gonna face in the playoffs? I mean, they're gonna be a wild card probably. So, I mean, almost definitely. So, um, I think if they're the last wild card, they face the.
They might end up facing the Steelers probably if the Steelers win
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
or the Browns.
wait. If they're the sixth team, then
Oh
don't they?
no.
Oh yeah, they face the third team. So they face either the Bills or the Steelers. It looks like. Yeah, I feel really good about them winning against the Steelers. Maybe not the Bills because the Bills look really dangerous this year. But even the Bills, I could see them winning. But
That's a close matchup because
yeah, I mean,
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. They both got the legs.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing to watch.
That might be a tight one.
Both drafted in the same year too. That'd be a heck of a matchup. Yeah, I think this our next team we can agree on. It's
definitely the Saints.
Yeah, it's the team we've been talking about for the last 8 or so rankings. It's the Saints, and the story with them. You might not expect this, given that they have Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But the strength going into the playoffs is their defense. They've only given up 297 points, which is good for basically third best behind the Rams and Washington football team, which are both excellent defenses. And part of that is because they gave up 32 points to the Chiefs, which, who can blame them? It's Mahomes. But they've got so much talent. They got Marshall Lattimore, who's great in the secondary. They got Malcolm Jenkins, who himself is great in the secondary. They got a great linebacker in Demario Davis, Cameron Jordan, who's been a rock for them on the defensive line. Trey Hendrickson is emerging this year. 2 sacks just last week against the Chiefs. Their defense looks on fire. And not to mention they got Alvin Kamara, who we talk about Henry being the best running back. I think this may be the best pass catching running back in the league. He is a absolutely dangerous threat as a receiving running back. This is the guy you have to key in on. You have to focus your defense on just to stop him because he's dangerous. He basically was almost looking at an 1,000-yard season on the receiving end, which is crazy to think about for a running back. I don't think it's happened too many times aside from maybe Marshall Faulk. But this is a team. If Drew Brees can hold it together, then this is a team that's a favorite to win the Super Bowl along with the Chiefs. It's just a question if Brees can get back to that form he was before the punctured lungs. And I don't know if he will, because last week wasn't so pretty. 15 for 34. That's not a great performance. We'll see if he can improve upon that. If you give this defense to Drew Brees 4 years ago, I don't think anyone's questioning this team's the favorite. But we're looking at a 41-year-old Drew Brees. We got to see if he still has enough left in the tank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. These next, 2 weeks? Yeah, these next 2 weeks will determine whether or not the Saints should really be considered Super Bowl contenders. We just got to see how Drew Brees is going to reel from that rib injury. What was it? 11 cracked ribs, punctured lung.
Oh yeah.
Definitely really hard to come back from. But if he comes back as the old Drew Brees we know and love, they're definitely a dangerous threat. But now with the back-to-back losses, it's definitely gonna be a lot tougher. They lost that first round bye, so no home field advantage for the whole playoffs.
Yeah,
and it's just a.
Sorry, no, you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we just gotta wait and see, and
yeah.
So you can go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna ask you. Some people are saying they should start Taysom Hill for the playoffs. Is that something you feel would be good for their team?
I feel like Taysom Hill is a guy that he shouldn't be a guy. He should be a guy you only use like a little bit, because Drew Brees is the guy, all right? Drew Brees is the guy.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill is the guy you bring in. I think when Drew Brees just needs a bit of a break, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. They lost the Eagles with Taysom Hill, which, if Drew Brees is playing in that game, they don't lose that. I think he's not. I don't think he can fill the shoes of a Drew Brees in any kind of capacity. I think he's best used, like you mentioned, as a replacement when Brees needs a rest. Like, for example, when he punctured his lungs. So, I definitely agree with that assessment.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, try and give him as much playing time as possible, because, people are saying this might be Drew Brees' last ride, and, Taysom Hill might have to be that guy for this franchise after that. But Like think about the teams that Taysom Hill beat. He beat what was it? The Broncos. They literally had no QB and to
Oh
start
yeah,
off the
that was a
series.
throwaway game. I don't even count that.
Beat the choking Falcons. And
Yeah,
who else did they beat?
beat the before that they
Yeah.
lost it. But I think that was with Breeze still.
Oh, so they only won 3 games with Taysom Hill.
Yeah, look, or no, Taysom. Sorry, Taysom Hill beat the Falcons both times. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they
he
beat the
played.
Falcons and the Broncos without a starting QB. So
Yeah,
not really hard to win those games. So
yeah. So it's a small sample size. We have yet to see what he can do against a really great team, but we did see he lost the Eagles, so that wasn't great. But yeah, he looks like someone who can maybe be their quarterback of the future. I guess we'll see soon enough since Breeze is 41. Father Time is catching up on him. But it's definitely something that they don't have to worry about now, at the very least, if Breeze can stay healthy.
all right. So
Top
now we're
three.
to the top three.
I got my team. Who do you think?
I think we could both agree on this.
Okay.
I think the Packers.
I got the
No.
Bills, but
Oh, you got the Bills next.
could be Packers. Packers have won.
All right.
I don't know. I just see Packers win their last 4 games. Bills have also won their last 4 games. It's pretty even. Not too much to distinguish them.
If these two teams face today, who are you picking to win?
I feel like the Bills can beat any team right now, so I'd pick the Bills, but I think they're riding a hot streak. I'm not sure that it's as sustainable as the Packers.
All right. I'm fine putting the Packers at 3. We'll talk about the Packers next.
Packers at 3, okay.
Oh, I mean, the Bills at 3. Sorry.
Okay, cool. We'll go with mine then. Okay, Bills at 3. Now I like the Bills. I don't think they're going to Super Bowl this year because they don't have enough experience, but this is definitely one of the most dangerous teams in the league. Josh Allen is a potential MVP candidate. He's been unbelievable this year. He's taken a step that no one could really expect. Is this gonna be in the podcast?
I don't know. Edit that out somehow. All right. Anyway, go back to what you're saying.
Minor interruption. Josh Allen, right? That's what we were talking about. Yeah, he's been unbelievable this year. Stephon Diggs, he's emerged into a top 5 receiver. 150 yards last week, 11 receptions. They got a great running game too. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, two-headed monster. It's actually the defense that might hold them back. It's looked shaky at times. But lately, it's looked great. They got 19 points to the Broncos, 15 points to the Steelers. Can't complain about that. They got some real talent on defense with Tremaine Edmonds. Their star linebacker, Jordan Poyer, has been amazing as a safety. And Tre'Davious White, obviously one of the top corners in the league. So this is a team that will do some real damage. I just wonder if they will beat the big teams because, they lost the Chiefs. And look at who else they lost to. They lost to the Titans. They got killed by the Titans. And they lost the Cardinals. Those are all really good teams. Can they beat the big teams? I don't know. I guess that's something we'll have to see if Josh Allen has matured enough to do. But what are your thoughts on that?
I'd say they probably could. Like, you could argue they should be 12-2, because the Cardinals had that lucky miracle play
Oh yeah,
against them.
miracle talk.
Yeah. I mean, other than a win is a win. So
Win is a win for sure.
they are 11-3.
Yeah,
I would say, they definitely have a chance. I mean, they won their division first time since 1995.
it's huge.
So far, they've been, for the past few weeks, they've been dominant. Lighting up the scoreboard.
Yeah,
Buffalo, 554 yards of offense this week with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. I think it looks like Cole Beasley. Yeah, it says Cole Beasley's first receiver He'll soon be the first Bills receiver to go 1,000 yards in the same season since Peerless Price and Eric Moulds did it back in 2002. So
yeah, who would have thought Cole Beasley? I mean, he is one of the best slot receivers in the league, but then again, Cole Beasley was never really a big name that was talked about with the likes of other 1,000-yard receivers. So it's really a great accomplishment for him. Just a testament to how improved that offense is.
Yeah, in my opinion, it could be any team except the Chiefs would be
I was gonna say
close.
I can't see them beating the Chiefs. I just can't see my way around that victory. I just think the Chiefs have their number. They seem better in every aspect. Their quarterback's better, got a better run game. They got a better defense. So I mean I can't see them winning. But then again, Josh Allen has surprised us on many occasions. He might do it again.
All right. So next, obviously the Packers are next.
Of course, no doubt about who's number one at this point. So the Packers, what do you think?
All right. Well, I think Aaron Rodgers definitely the MVP frontrunner right now.
Really?
Ahead of Mahomes? Yeah, ahead of Mahomes for sure. Mahomes, he beat the Saints, but it was still a 3-point game. Drew Brees was struggling, and against the Dolphins, he had a couple picks. Aaron Rodgers.
It is actually pretty close. I'm looking at the odds. They're neck and neck right now. Mahomes is slightly
really close.
Rodgers is definitely creeping up on him.
Yeah, but today, if we're doing it today, I'd definitely say Aaron Rodgers, but really close. He had 143 passing yards and a touchdown against the Panthers, 24-16 victory.
143 yards.
I mean, that's but overall the team, on defense they stepped up as well. Like the rookie linebacker Chris Barnes, poked the ball away from Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh yeah.
And Kevin King got a pick six. It says 48 yards. No, not a pick six. Returned it 48 yards and then set up the Packers touchdown. Yeah. This week or next week, I should say. This is like a real test for them against the Titans. We'll see if they can win that one, and Aaron Rodgers could, creep ahead of Mahomes in the the rankings of MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree that that's going to be a test. If he puts on a good performance, I think he might take a stranglehold on that MVP race. This guy, this year he seems like he's allergic to interceptions because he's got only 4 of them this year compared to 40 touchdowns, which is nearly unprecedented when you look at the touchdown to interception ratio. It's a historic season. He's been historically great for the Packers, one of his best years. I don't think anyone will argue that he's better than Favre now. He's going to carry them all the way. If they do go all the way, it's going to be on his shoulders. They have a great running back in Aaron Jones, but make no mistake about it, it's all Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't matter who you have at receiver. Obviously, Devontae Adams is his favorite target, but he's made someone like Robert Tonyan Jr. A star at the tight end position. He's made Marcus Valdes-Scantling and Alan Lazard relevant when otherwise, with most other quarterbacks, they wouldn't be. He's making his receivers stars, and that's what he does best. Is basically carries the team on his shoulders, both of them, not just the right one. So, yeah, he's great. That defense is also nothing to sleep on. They got Christian Kirksey, who came back from injury, and a couple of those other guys you mentioned, like Kevin King. This is a team that's going to be really frightening in the face in the playoffs, and I don't know if any team has the ability to beat them. I think the team with the best shot is probably the Saints or the Seahawks. Outside of that, a team's going to be hard pressed to win against them. Maybe the Bucks too. I don't know, but
the Bucks did beat them early in the season. A lot has changed since then. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Bucks actually crushed them. So,
yeah,
it's gonna. I think the Bucks have a chance at beating them, but for the time being, they look like the front runners in that conference. But without further ado, we got none other
reigning and defending Super Bowl champions.
With the reigning and defending should be MVP in Mahomes. I think he should have won MVP last year. But even though he didn't play the whole year, people disagree with. But he's the guy. He's the guy who's going to be challenging Brady for that GOAT status in years to come. He's the star. He's the face of the league. He's the face of the best team in football. They're 13-1. Their one loss was against the Raiders. It was a blip. If there's one knock I can give on them is that they're not blowing teams out right now. They've won a lot of close games lately. Saints won by 3, Dolphins won by 6, Broncos won by 6, Bucks won by 3, Raiders won by 4, Panthers won by 2. You have to go back 6 weeks for a win that was by at least a touchdown. And that was against the Jets. So if there's one knock I'll give on them is that they're not blowing teams out. If anything, they're getting off to really hot starts and blowing the leads a lot. Part of that can be attributed to the fact that they don't have a great run game. And they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie running back who was drafted before any of the other rookie running backs. He's been good, hasn't been a star. He actually got hurt this week, and looks like he's going to bounce back from it. But that running game could be a liability for them. I don't know if Le'Veon Bell's got enough left in the tank at his age to carry the load with Edwards-Helaire out. It's going to be that passing game with Kelsey and Hill. That's going to be what takes them to the top. And I think despite their lack of a run game, their defense and their passing game, that's going to be what carries them to the Super Bowl. That's why I think they are going to win the Super Bowls if the Ravens can't defeat them. That's my prediction.
All right, looking like might be the first back-to-back champs since the Patriots did it a while ago.
Yeah, no team with
definitely agree with you. Too many close wins. A team like this should be having more blowouts for sure. But in the playoffs, they're different beasts. They tend to win from behind a lot.
Yeah. They do. And the teams they face lately are tough. They beat the Dolphins, Bucks, Saints. Those are all playoff teams. The Raiders are even in the hunt. But I'm looking at the Broncos and I'm looking at the Panthers. They should be killing those teams, but they haven't. But I think they'll get it to that next gear, or Mahomes will, anyways, in time for the playoffs.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to see the State Farm Bowl this year. You should have gone last year.
State Farm Bowl? I don't know what that is, but
people say that because Mahomes and Rodgers, they're both in State Farm commercials. So if they ever faced in a Super Bowl, people call it State Farm Bowl.
I see the hair commercials with Mahomes, but yeah, I've definitely seen the State Farm commercials with Rodgers. Yeah, man, that'd be a heck of a Super Bowl. Although, really, I'd like to see the Bucks against the Chiefs. That'd be really great to watch for me.
Current GOAT versus future GOAT. Would you like to see?
Pretty much, yeah. That's how I see it. Although I don't know if Mahomes will surpass Brady. That might be a topic for another day. Yeah,
Potential future GOAT.
Sorry?
Potential future GOAT.
Potential future GOAT, yeah. And if he continues playing like he is right now, gets a few more Super Bowls, is able to match Brady, then we could be talking about the future GOAT for sure. Yeah, this year will be an important one in making his case down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for Power Rankings for this week.
There she is.
I will definitely say you definitely have to try and shorten these for the future. This is kind of long.
What was this, 2 hours?
Yeah, definitely try to cut a whole hour off it if possible.
Yeah, I think we went on a long time about, what was it, the Eagles or something?
Oh yeah, Carson Wentz.
One of those things. Yeah, maybe the Bucks too. A couple of those really.
That whole NFC East division.
Yeah. Maybe next rankings we'll do a timer, like a 2-minute timer for each, or that might even be too long. Maybe a 1-minute timer for each.
And I'll definitely try to write down notes so I could say my quick little thing for each team.
Absolutely. And to our 0 subscribers, please give us suggestions on any improvements we can make for future videos. I know you guys are gonna love. All 0 of you are gonna love this one. And we're gonna be working on improvements on how to make this better. And sorry for my sister yelling in the middle of this video. I do sincerely apologize, but I think it added to the realness. Yeah.
All right, that does it. We'll be seeing our 0 subscribers next week.
Yes, sir.
Have
Okay.
a damn good one.
Yeah.